Welcome back to the commission, everyone. For those of you who don't know, everyone knows. I'm Bryce. So we just finished our series on the image of God, talking about, the Bible and what it says about people, how we were created, all that good stuff. We ended about relationships, and the one side of relationships I really wanted to cover was friendship. So we hit, the difference between friendship and the relationships we talked about, even though they were non-romantic relationships that we were kind of framing it in, that's like the base way you should treat every human being, right? But there's a difference between how you treat every human being and how you treat your friends. So what we want to look at today is just what does it take to make godly friends? What's the biblical, and not just godly friends, but what's the biblical way to make friends? What does the Bible say about friends? So, the reason why I had you guys go through a friendship gauntlet is because we now know who the best friends are in the room, right? That was a fair test, right? No, that probably wasn't a very good test, right? If someone's like, I have the best friend in the world, what makes you guys such good friends? Well, we're really good with a ping pong ball on the back of a fork, and I solved the math problem, and I ate a sardine. Or at least my friend did. They're like, oh yeah, you are the best friends out there. Like, you put us to shame. And then the friendship relationship goals is we got to buy some sardines and eat them. That's a terrible way to judge your friendship. But we come up with all sorts of arbitrary ways of judging how good a friendship is, right? I remember when I was growing up, a common saying was, the difference between a good friend and a best friend is a good friend's the one who tells you, don't do that thing. And the best friend is the one who's sitting next to you in the jail cell and goes, yeah, we messed up. Interesting. I remember, being a kid and hearing that and being like, I don't know that is necessarily a good thing to do with a friend, is wind up in prison. So we want to take a look at friendship. The text we're going to look at today is, we're going to look at 1 Samuel here in a moment. So if you want to head that direction. And we're going to take a look at Proverbs. Now, the thing with Proverbs, to help you guys out here, is Proverbs is a collection of wise sayings. And so it's hard to, I wanted you guys to see a lot of Proverbs today, but it's hard to just preach a chapter of Proverbs because it's literally like a collection of fortune cookies. These were wise sayings that were out and around in the time of, the ancient Middle Eastern cultures and all that kind of stuff. And people would have these sayings, and it would be something like if today we would say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? We have these sayings, right? If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. If the boot fits or if the shoe fits, that kind of thing. And what happened is they had these sayings, and then they were composed into a book called Proverbs, and then they were put into the biblical canon, the Old Testament specifically. Something happened, though. The moment they were included into the Old Testament, they were protected because that's God's book, right? So it's different than what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's different than just other wise sayings. These are wise sayings that specifically God has said, I approve these for my book. So they should be seen as higher than a fortune cookie. But that being said, they're kind of all over the place. So I highly encourage you guys, just open up your Bible from time to time. Take a look at Proverbs. It's really easy. It's really fun. I remember when I was in high school, I used to go around with my Bible around lunch. I was a Christian private school, so it was a little less intimidating to do that when I was there. But I would go around with my book, and I would be like, do you want to hear a proverb? And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, he who scorns a rebuke will be destroyed. And so anyways, it's a really cool book, but we're going to take a look at it today. But before we jump into this, before we jump into what Proverbs and 1 Samuel says about friends, let's go ahead and pray. Thank you, God, for tonight. Thank you for bringing us here, Lord. Thank you for just having stuff to teach us, God. Encourage us to go home, open up our Bibles, and back up these things, Lord. To actually study on our own, not just to come here and just receive a good message and then go home. But God, let's actually be encouraged to just put these things in action, put these things to test. And just grow more with you, Lord. In Jesus' name, everyone said, amen. Okay, so I want to talk about friends. I'm going to say that there's two types of friends. Now, really, there's 1,000 types of friends, right? but I'm going to summarize generally the two types of friends I want to look at today are good friends and bad friends. So here, I had a range of friends when I was in high school. No, I don't have friends anymore. I'm just kidding. But when I say in high school, it makes it sound like I don't have friends anymore. But I had a range of friends. Yeah, it's true. You know, when you're an adult, you just don't have friends. Kidding. I'm kidding. But Dean, will you be my friend? Dang it. All right. So I had a group of friends, and there was this guy named Adrian. Adrian was the guy who, have you ever seen people in school get in trouble? Right? And all, like a group of people, not just one, but a group of people get called to the principal's office. Sometimes it's a group of people who are expelled. It's a group of people in detention. It's a group, right? We had different groups in our high school that were doing different, various stupid things. Just, you know, like, I mean, teenagers being teenagers, you know, they would be like, we're going to find some mischief. They'd go find it. But the common denominator in every one of these groups was Adrian. He was the guy who, when like we were hanging out in the locker room or something, and people were talking about what they were going to do, and inevitably someone talks about they're going to do something stupid, Adrian would be like, huh? Oh, stupidity? And so he would, you know, he was the guy who was like always looking for something dumb. And so every group of kids that got sent to the principal's office, got expelled, got detention, all these kind of things, he was just there with all the different groups. And I think most of the groups didn't even really consider him a friend. He was just like, oh, I want to do that stuff. It sounds fun. So one time, you know, I'm hanging out. Adrian's there. We got some other friends there. My cousin Mark's there, who was like my best friend at the time. And my parents were out of town. They always go out of town. They would just kind of leave me and my friends alone. I was like 17. I could drive. It was all good. So my parents are out of town, and I'm hanging out with my friends. And we decide that we're bored. So we go to the store and we buy what we call tag. Some people think of that as spray paint based on what culture or geographical culture. And tag to us was shoe polish. It's like you write just married on a car and that kind of thing, you know, shoe polish. So we bought a bunch of shoe polish, and we got in Mark's green Jeep, and we drove down to the nearest hotel, and we wrote on everyone's car in the hotel parking lot. And then we got bored of that because it was too easy. So we saw a laundromat that was just like glass, and we're like, perfect. So we drew all over the laundromat. And then we got bored and we went into a subdivision randomly, and we were driving around and we started tagging people's like windows. And then we come across this car in the middle of this cul-de-sac. And it was like, when we saw this car, it was like a gazelle that had drifted from the pack. And like a group of lions had come up, and we like circled it. I don't know why, the car being in the middle of the cul-de-sac, we were just like, ah, you know, like perfect. So we came up in this car, we circled it around, we're like, look how beautiful it is. Look how much this guy's just begging to have his car written on with shoe polish. So we get out, and we start just writing all over this car, all sorts of stuff. As we finish, like my friend Skylar's like, hey, wait. He's like, look what I drew on the windshield. So as we like go across, we're like admiring his work. And then as we drive around the back of the car, the house at the end of the cul-de-sac, the front door's open. And there's this dude who's probably like 6'3", 250. And he's just got these dreadlocks too, which looks so menacing. And he's like, like it's just this like, you know, he's in this stance that's like from a movie. And we're like, and so my cousin Mark, he was the best driver, so we let him drive. And he takes off in his green Jeep. And we're flying through subdivisions. And for those of you who drive, probably only Dean here, but like when you go on a subdivision, you're like, where do I go? Like, it's not like the main roads, it's a maze. And so he's navigating the maze, he's running stop signs. We get to the end of the cul-de-sac, where we're getting out of the cul-de-sac, and there's two cars waiting at the stop sign. As there's traffic going through, they're waiting to go. And I like look behind, and it took that guy a moment to get into his car and chase after us, though we knew he was after us. And so we're waiting in line. We're like, go, 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 go. And we're like, huh? And then one car's like, do, 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 click, 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 I'm going to turn. And then the other car is like, do, 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 I'm going to turn. And we like hug his bumper illegally, like we were on the stop sign. My cousin flies down the road. He's running red lights. He's going crazy, and this car peels out right behind us, and we can see he's chasing us through the red lights, through the stop signs. We are now in a high-speed chase on like the main roads, and so I see this collection of stores. You know, like there's a Target, and then there's like a Big Lots, and you know that kind of thing. And you can pull the back, and they're all connected. And in the back, there's like the loading bay. So I tell my cousin, I'm like, bro, I was like, go behind where the things load and we'll lose them back there. My cousin goes, got it. And he's like, I get you. I was like, cool. So I was like, go behind where the trucks load and come out on the other side. We'll lose them. And he's like, good. He pulls up to the Taco Bell that's like in front. You know what I'm talking about? How like you go to those, like where there's a Walmart, there's always like a Taco Bell like right in the front. He pulls up to the Taco Bell in a car that is a green Jeep that you can tell it's a unique car. It's not like a regular Jeep. It's like an old school like boxy Jeep. It's like aqua green. This is not like a black sedan. It's not like a, Toyota Corolla. It's not like, oh, like where'd the car go? And so he pulls in there. My cousin is 6'7", 340. No, I apologize, 6'8", 340. So he's a big dude. And his car, like your front seat of your car, it's designed to come out. So you can reupholster it, you can do whatever. He didn't fit in his car because he's so big. And so like where the 4 pegs connect, he had the back 2 connected to the front of his chair so he could fit in there. He's a big guy. And so he pulls up. He's like, Mark, what are you doing? I said, go behind. He's like, I don't know. You said turn in here. And then he goes, I was like, well, what are we going to do? And he goes, he's just like, ducks. And he's this mound that you can see. And the car is aqua green. And I'm like, no. And then this car pulls up right behind us. Gets out of the car. This big man, he's like, get out of the car! Get out of the car! I'm like, oh no. And like, I know martial arts, and so everyone looks to me. Just feel like Han Solo. That's not how the Force works, like, I'm like, and so like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, and I'm like 5'11", like 175, I mean, this guy's like, 6'3", 250. And my cousin has his window down, because of air conditioning, And the guy walks up and like leans in the window and puts his hands on the windshield to stop it from rolling up. My cousin Mark, huge guy, looks up like a 3-year-old, just, and he goes, and he starts rolling up his window. It's a 9-year-old, and the guy's fingers are going up, and he starts pinching his fingers. And I remember like specifically, like, sometimes details stick out to you. Just this guy's dreadlock being stuck. Like I remember like his dread almost got stuck in the windshield. My cousin, and I was like, what do we do? And my cousin backs up. I don't know how he doesn't hit the guy's car. He goes at an angle, barely misses the car, barely misses the guy, takes off down the street, goes into my gated community in the apartment we were living in. And like everyone gets back and we're my cousin's like, I'm not coming back to this part of town for like 3 months. So that would be bad friends. And so we got together and we decided to do something stupid because we wanted to. There was a lot of wisdom there. The other contrast to that is I had a friend named Candace. Me and Candace, we met in 3rd grade. We were best friends. I switched schools, went to public schools, came back, went to public schools, came back. But we stayed friends. And her name was Candace Williams, and she was just a great godly girl. Her mother was the school lady, or was the lunch lady. And like we hung out, like I'd go to her house for like when we'd go to prom and stuff like that. I didn't take her to prom, but it would be like we'd meet at her house for the limo. She would have parties. We'd hang out, have a good time. And I just remember how much into the Word she was, how much into the Bible she was, how godly she was, and how much we connected over those things. And when I would go through hard times, she was there for me. And then when she went through some hard times with her parents, like I was there for her. And we comforted each other, we loved each other. And it was never like a romantic thing. It was just this really good friendship. And it's really cool because she married a guy whose last name is Bible. And so like the most godly girl I know, her last name is now Bible, which is just fitting. But after all these years, I can't get a hold of even my own cousin. He's out doing his thing. I like, yo man, like I'm playing a video game, love to play with you. No response. Sometimes I reach out, she's like, hey bro, how's it going? Like, how's life? No response. We run into each other awkwardly sometimes. I'm like, Mark, how's it going? He's like, good, just living life. It's like not really a true connection, even though we used to be best friends. But Candace, every time I have a kid, she's in Oklahoma. I was in Arizona. Now I'm in Las Vegas. She's constantly reaching out. She's constantly keeping up with me. She's praying for me. She's praying for my family. She just reminisces every once in a while how good of times we had and all that kind of stuff. And she's this friend that after all these years, even though we're separate on opposite sides of states and stuff like that, but we still have this true connection. We still have this good friendship. And it's a relationship I care about. It's something that I want to keep alive, even though it's not even really practical anymore because we can't really hang out. So when we look at these two different types of friends and the two different types of stories, and I have some fun stories with Candace, but I chose to tell the crazy story today. But you're welcome. But I have good times with Candace too. But I want to look at Scripture now and kind of look at friendships and see what the Bible has to tell us about all this craziness of friendship. So today we're going to look at David and Jonathan. They are probably the best friendship in the entire Bible, aside from maybe Jesus and John the Baptist, but we get a little bit more on David and Jonathan. It's a little bit of a scripture trek, so stick with me. But luckily, instead of it being like Ephesians or Hebrews where it's like a guy lecturing, this is like a story, so story time, okay? So 1 Samuel 17, 2 verses 57, 58. When Saul had seen David going out to confront the Philistine, he asked Abner, the commander of the army, "Whose son is this youth, Abner?" "Your Majesty, as surely as you live, I don't know," Abner replied. The king said, "Find out whose son this young man is." When David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the Philistine's head still in his hands. Ew. Can you imagine just walking around? Like, ew. Anyways, and the thing was probably like this big. But anyways, Saul said to him, "Whose son are you, young man?" And David responded, "The son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem," David answered. So we go straight into chapter 18, verse 1. Who's there as David is responding so respectfully? He's talking about he just killed Goliath. Everyone's amazed by him. And as he's talking to the king, standing there is Jonathan, Saul's son. So it says, when David had finished speaking with Saul, Jonathan was bound to David in close friendship and loved him as much as he loved himself. Saul kept David with him from that day on and did not let him return to his father's house. So Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as much as himself. Then Jonathan removed the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his military tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. So these are symbols of the son of the king. So he gives him all of his royal symbols, all of his royal authority. He bestows these things upon him. And David marched out with the army and was successful in everything Saul sent him to do. Saul put him in command of the fighting men, which pleased all the people and Saul's servants as well. Before we move on, one thing I want to point out here is that Jonathan doesn't really know David. David shows up. Everyone's afraid of Goliath. He's like, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Like, I'm going to go kill him and chop his head off and then carry it around because it's gross. And Jonathan sees this guy, and when he talks to the king, he's respectful, he's polite, he's got a lot of good qualities. And Jonathan immediately sees this guy, and he's like, this guy's pretty cool. I like him. I want to make a covenant with him. I want to be friends with him. So he gives him all this cool stuff. We're going to see later on, though, as we get into this, that Jonathan really likes David. David doesn't really know Jonathan. Jonathan hasn't killed a Philistine. Jonathan hasn't done any noteworthy works as of yet. And so it's really kind of a one-way street right now. Jonathan's like, that guy's pretty cool. I want to be his friend. And David's like, hey, okay, cool. Thank you. And so we're going to see how their friendship kind of evolves. It kind of unfolds here. So verse 19, or chapter 19 now, verses 1 through 6. And the reason why we're skipping around is because it goes David, Jonathan, then it's like David and Saul, 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 David and Saul, David and Jonathan. We want to look at David and Jonathan. So I'm just giving you guys the David and Jonathan parts here, okay? And a lot of people have an easier time remembering the David and Saul parts, but not so easy of a time remembering the David and Jonathan parts. So highly encourage you guys, read the full story when you go home, but we're going to get back to this. So chapter 19, verse 1 through 6. Saul ordered his son Jonathan and all his servants to kill David. But Saul's son Jonathan liked David very much, so he told him, my father Saul intends to kill you. Be on your guard in the morning and hide in a secret place and stay there. I'll go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are to talk to him about you. And when I see what he says, I'll tell you. So real quick, Jonathan really likes David, but the relationship is so their friendship that's kind of unfolding here is so unknown that even Saul doesn't yet get that he's like, hey, go kill that guy. And he didn't think oh, that's my son's best friend. So it just goes to show how the relationship isn't exactly public yet, that they're the best friends in all of history. So Jonathan spoke well of David to his father Saul. He said to him, the king should not sin against his servant David. He hasn't sinned against you. In fact, his actions have been a great advantage to you. He took his life in his hands when he struck down the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great victory for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. So why would you sin against innocent blood by killing David for no reason? Saul listened to Jonathan's advice and swore an oath. As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be killed. So Jonathan summoned David and told him all these words. Then Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he served him as he did before. So we can kind of see here, like, people don't really know that they're friends yet. Saul's like, hey, go kill that guy. He's like, hey, I really like him. You shouldn't kill him. He stands up for David. Still, though, we see that this is still kind of a one-way relationship. David's not really, like, David's kind of receiving things from Jonathan. He's not really giving back just yet. And we're going to see as we hit chapter 20. Chapter 20 is going to be the last little chapter we read. We're going to see kind of what their relationship, their friendship looks like. So David fled from Naioth. Now, real quick, this is right after David's like playing a harp, and Saul throws a spear at David and tries to kill him. So David runs, understandably. David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came to Jonathan and asked, what have I done? What did I do wrong? How have I sinned against your father so that he wants to take my life? Jonathan said to him, no, you won't die. Listen, my father doesn't do anything great or small without telling me. So why would he hide this matter from me? This can't be true. But David said, your father certainly knows that I have found favor with you. He has said, Jonathan must not know of this, or else he will be grieved. David also swore, as surely as the Lord lives, and you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death. So, real quick, what's going on here is you can see David doesn't necessarily trust Jonathan. He likes him. He's gotten good things. But David's like, listen, man, your dad's trying to kill me. And he's like, nah, like, listen, it's going to be okay. My dad would tell me. And David's like, listen, thank you for the stuff. You're kind of cool. But I'm telling you, I don't trust your judgment. Like, your judgment is everything's cool. Your judgment's wrong. If I trust you, I'm going to die. Like, you're saying bad things. And so David's kind of pushing back a little bit. So Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I'll do for you. So David told him, look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I'm supposed to sit down and eat with the king. Instead, let me go and hide in the countryside for the next 2 nights. If your father misses me at all, say David urgently requested my permission to go quickly to his hometown Bethlehem for an annual sacrifice there involving the whole clan. If he says, good, then your servant is safe. But if he becomes angry, you will know he has evil intentions. Deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I've done anything wrong, then kill me yourself. Why take me to your father? So again, pause. David's like questioning Jonathan. He's like, listen, I thought you wanted to be my friend. If you take me before your father, he'll kill me. So like, if that's what you want to do, then save yourself the time and just kill me right now. No, Jonathan responded. If I ever find out my father has evil intentions against you, wouldn't I tell you about it? So David asked Jonathan, who will tell me if your father answers you harshly? He answered David, come on, let's go out to the countryside. So both of them went out to the countryside. By the Lord God of Israel, I will sound out my father by this time tomorrow or the next day. If I find out that he is favorable toward you, will I not send for you and tell you? If my father intends to bring evil on you, may the Lord punish Jonathan and do so severely if I continue to live. Show me kindness from the Lord, but if I die, don't ever withdraw your kindness from my household. Not even when the Lord cuts off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth. Then Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, may the Lord hold David's enemies accountable. Jonathan once again swore to David in his love for him because he loved him as much as he loved himself. So what's going on here is that Jonathan's working things out with David. He's like, listen, I know you don't trust me. He says, I will die for you. He says, listen, I'm going to go before my father, and I will sound him out. And there's a chance here that his father may kill him. So he says, if he kills me, remember me. Remember that I cared for you. Remember that we were friends. So if I die, just remember me fondly. And even when God cuts off all your enemies, because you can tell God's hands on David. He says, if God cuts down all your enemies, he's just remember me. Deal kindly with me if he does live. So then Jonathan said to him, tomorrow is the new moon. You'll be missed because your seat will be empty. The following day, hurry down and go to the place where you hid on the day this incident began, and stay beside the rock of Azeel. I will shoot 3 arrows beside it as if I'm aiming at the target. Then I will send a servant to say, go and find the arrows. Now if I expressly say to the servant, look, the arrows are on this side of you, get them, then come because the Lord lives. It is safe for you and there is no problem. But if I say to this youth, look, the arrows are beyond you, then go, for the Lord is sending you away. As for the matter you and I have spoken about, the Lord will be a witness between you and me forever. So David hid in the countryside. Now he's trusting Jonathan. So it's interesting. David's like, I don't trust you. I don't know if I trust you. And Jonathan said, okay, whatever you say, we'll do. You call the shots. And David's like, okay, here's my plan. And Jonathan comes back and he says, okay, I like your plan. Here's how I'm going to carry out your plan. And so now they're working together for a resolution. And now David trusts him. Now David is allowing Jonathan to do his thing. So at the new moon, the king sat down to eat his meal. He sat at his usual place on the seat by the wall. Jonathan sat facing him, and Abner, who's kind of the second-hand man of Saul, if you haven't picked up on that, took his place beside Saul. But David's place was empty. Saul did not say anything that day because he thought something unexpected has happened. He must be ceremonially unclean. Yes, that's it. He's unclean. So again, for those of you who don't know, Jewish customs, Jewish culture, like one of a million things can make you unclean. If you're unclean, you got to go wash for like 24 hours. And so it's not at all uncommon to be like, where's Jeff? Oh, probably touched a pig. So like, Saul's like, David's probably unclean. No big deal, him missing one day. However, the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was still empty. And Saul asked his son Jonathan, why didn't Jesse's son come to the meal either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered, David asked for my permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, please let me go because our clan is holding a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has told me to be there. So now, if I have found favor with you, let me go so I can see my brothers. That's why he didn't come to the king's table. Then Saul became angry with Jonathan and shouted, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you're siding with Jesse's son to your own shame and to the disgrace of your mother? Every day Jesse's son lives on earth. You and your kingship are not secure. Now send for him and bring him to me. He must die. So he kind of gives up the game a little bit there. What's interesting too is that Saul's trying to gain friendship with his son over the cause of hating David. He says, look, don't you understand? And one thing we kind of skipped to was David married Saul's daughter. That was the prize for killing Goliath. So he marries Saul's daughter. What's interesting now is David's kind of in the line for king. So it's like David, or it's Saul, Jonathan, David. If Saul dies, then if David kills Jonathan, or he has bad intentions, something happens to Jonathan, David rules. So he's like, don't you understand? Don't you understand that the longer this guy lives, the more your throne is in danger? So he tries to gain a friend with his son by establishing a mutual purpose. You should hate David because I hate David, and David wants to steal your throne. Jonathan answered his father back, why is he to be killed? What has he done? Then Saul threw his spear at Jonathan to kill him. So, Saul obviously doesn't care about his son sitting on the throne because putting a spear through someone does not help them rule a country. So he knew that his father was determined to kill David. He got up from the table, fiercely angry. I would say rightly so, right? Someone throws a spear at me. I'm like, I'm upset. You tried to kill me. I'm not going to talk to you for 2 days. Yeah, family problems. He did not eat any food that second day of the new moon, for he was grieved because of his father's shameful behavior towards David. Here at the end, just the last little bit. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the countryside for the appointed meeting with David. A young servant was with him. He said to the servant, run and find the arrows I'm shooting, and the servant ran. Jonathan shot an arrow beyond him and came to the location of the arrow that Jonathan had shot. But Jonathan called to him and said, the arrow is beyond you, isn't it? Then Jonathan called him, hurry up, don't stop. Jonathan's servant picked up the arrow and returned to his master. He did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew the arrangement. Then Jonathan gave his equipment to the servant who was with him and said, go, take it back to the city. When the servant had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone of Ezeal, fell face down on the ground, and paid homage 3 times. So what's interesting is David then pays homage to the son of the king 3 times. He's making special reverence of the son. He's acknowledging him as royalty, but he's also doing this out of friendship. He's showing how thankful he is to him. And so then he and Jonathan kissed each other, wept with each other, though David wept more. Now, real quick, our culture has kind of made kissing like ooey gooey. Back then, like, kissing was just a thing. As we talked about back in a few messages ago when we talked about Jesus going to the party, there was like people would kiss the hand, they'd kiss the forehead. It's just something culturally they do. This is not so uncommon in every part of the world except for really America. So don't make that weird. But Jonathan then said to David, go in the assurance the 2 of us pledged in the name of the Lord when we said, the Lord will be a witness between you and me and between my offspring and your offspring forever. Then David left and Jonathan went into the city. So that's it for the reading tonight. There's a lot more of David and Jonathan that's out there. They're a really well-documented friendship. It doesn't have a great ending. Spoiler alert, Jonathan kind of dies. It's very sad. I encourage you guys, you should read the story. It's a fantastic story. If you don't look at it as like the Bible, like I'm reading scripture, but if you treat it like a story, like what does this actually say? It's a really gripping story. Like it's really like emotional. There's a lot of good points in there. It'd make a fantastic movie. So I encourage you guys, when you read these stories, just kind of, I would encourage you to take a scholarly step away instead of being like, what does the scripture mean? That's a good approach to scripture, don't get me wrong, but with these stories, you can gain really such a good insight of what's happening if you look at it as like a narrative. It's really what it is. It's an amazing story. But guys, there are 3 things about friendship that stand out here. Okay, there's 3 things we're going to cover tonight through all of this. The first one is intention. You see, Jonathan saw David, and he said, that guy's pretty cool, and he made an intentional step towards friendship. So guys, my encouragement to you is to be intentional about who you pick as friends. Distance yourselves from fools, scoffers, and sinners. Fools, again, are just people who are doing foolish things, right? Like I went out with my buddies and tagged a car and was doing stupid stuff. We were fools, right? It didn't lead to good. We could have died. Like we could have got hit by a car. We could have been T-boned at a red light. All of us would have died. All of a sudden, that would not have been such a fun story, right? Like we laughed because everyone was okay, but the truth is, like, someone dies every day from doing a handful of the stuff we did. So scoffers are people who just like to make fun of people. I get like ribbing and joking, like I'm not really condemning that, but just the people who are always like down on people. You know, you've seen these guys, right? Like there's a kid in my school who would go around and he'd be like, you wear like new pants, and like, hey, sweet pants, and he's like making fun of you, you know, like scoffers. Also specifically, scoffers are also people who like the atheistic crowd who just like hate everything Christianity. So like you bring up anything Christian, they just want to make fun of it. And sinners, these are people who rejoice. This is not like we all sin, right? Sinners specifically is people who rejoice in sin. Like, let's go sin. That's kind of more like Adrian. He's like, where's the sin at? I got to find it. He's like sniffing it out. He's like, oh, okay. It wasn't just foolishness, which was odd, but a lot of stuff he was doing was like drugs and just all sorts of terrible things. And he was rejoicing in the sin. So sinners. Proverbs 18:24 says, one with many friends may be harmed, but there's a friend who stays closer than a brother. The first part of that is talking about many friends. If you got many friends, you're going to get harmed. It's like, oh, like, yeah, you want to be my friend, you want to be my friend, you want to be my friend, and you're just kind of inviting everyone into your inner circle. You're going to find out really quick that not everyone has your best interest in mind, right? Have you ever, like, we've all, like, probably been betrayed by friends before. I had people kind of stab us in the back, and we're probably a little bit too easy on who we picked as friends, who we invited. A lot of that comes because like you're just in a class with someone, you're kind of rubbing shoulders, you're like, we should be friends. And so what we want to look at is how to be intentional. So Jonathan saw something he liked in David, and he said, this guy's got something, so I want to be his friend. But the next part is to be pure in your pursuit of a person. You want to grow closer in mutual benefit. Don't be a leech. You see, Jonathan gave to David. As we saw, when Jonathan wanted to be David's friend, he was constantly like giving good things to David. And this isn't just gifts. Gifts is another point later. But it's more specifically that he's bringing something to the table, right? I've had in my life, and I think you guys have probably had it too, at least some of you, where it's like you have a person who's just kind of like a fan of you in a weird way. And like, it's like this adoring fan that just follows you around, and it's like kind of annoying because they don't bring anything, a lot of times you get this with like when you're an upperclassman with like lowerclassmen, and they're just like, I want to hang out. And like they don't add anything to the relationship. You're just like, okay, cool. And they want something from you. They want cool stuff from you. They want to be associated with you, but they don't bring anything to the table when it comes to actual friendship. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron and one person sharpens another. This proverb, what it's talking about is two people mutually benefit each other. When Jonathan approached David, he gave him his symbols of his royal authority. He gave David power. He gave David trust. He was looking out for David. He brought a lot to the relationship. He wasn't just like, there's a cool guy, I'm going to hang around him until he likes me. No, he was pure in his intention. I like this guy. It was just being honest, like he's a good man of God, he's a cool guy, he's a warrior. I want to be friends with this man. But he was pure in his intention. He didn't want to steal from David. He didn't want to take what David had. He didn't say, like, how can I learn to be a warrior from David so I can be a better warrior? How can I learn to be a king from David so I can be a better king? No, he just saw David as a good guy, knew that being close to him, being a friend with him, would make them both better, as iron sharpens iron. So the third part of intention is don't be friends with your enemy's enemy. Friendship over poison yields poison. Like we saw with Saul. Saul was like trying to gather Jonathan to his camp. He's like, you should hate David because I hate David and we can hate David together. How many times do we see this? It's kind of like Sun Tzu is like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? That's like Art of War says that. The point is like, that's not true. Okay, if you associate with people because they hate the people you hate, that's poison. And poison grows poison. You get poison from poison. And so this hateful, like even like politically, like if I have people who I were like, oh, you don't like that person either? I don't like them too. Let's hang out and talk about how much we don't like them. Like that's poison. And so it's even more personal with you guys and your relationships in school. You know, like we said, you maybe had a friend who's betrayed you, had something like that. So you kind of flock together with the other people who don't like them. And you're like, yeah, we all don't like that person. So let's all not like that person together. Proverbs 22, 24 through 25 says, don't make friends with an angry person. Don't be a companion of a hot-tempered one, or you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. If you find this person who's just like angry at people, they hate people, they love how much they hate, and you associate with that, you're like, yeah, like I want to join in the angst. You know, that sounds great. Let's go have a hate party. And again, just this like, do you remember when this person did something? Yeah, man, that was terrible. Yeah, it was. Man. Okay, that's going to poison. That's going to hurt you. You're going to get tangled up in their ways, and you're only going to get more entrenched in this poison, and it's only going to hurt you. It's only going to destroy you. It's this unforgiveness is a burden you have to carry that the other person doesn't feel. And I remember I had this girl who hated me for some reason. I was like in second grade, and I was like, she's like, I want to be a teacher. And I was a new kid in the school, and I was like, you would be a really good teacher. Like, I was just trying to be nice. And she heard she heard me say like, you would be a bad teacher. Probably because I had a speech impediment. I was in second grade. I don't know. And like years later, this girl was always mean to me. And it's like seventh grade now. We met in second grade. I'm like, I gotta ask you, what's your problem? Like, why are you so mean? She goes, it goes back to second grade. When you said I would be a bad teacher. I'm like, dang. Like, you know, there's another friend of mine who got upset over something in a game. And I reached out to them. I didn't know she was upset, and because we were playing a game. It was like something over a headset, I said. And I was like, hey, praying for you guys, love you guys. It was a husband and wife. I said, why don't I see you anymore? He's like, oh, my wife hates you. I'm like, okay. I was like, why? He's like, because that thing you said. I'm like, about the video game character? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. Like, you know, probably better off without that relationship. I felt bad. I was like, well, man, tell her I love her. You know, tell her I'm praying for you guys. I hope everything's good. But that's a burden she carries, that these people carry, and the more they associate on how much they like don't like me or whoever the person is in their lives, the more they build up that rock that they're just carrying. Like, yeah, this is my hate, you know. And here I am, like having a great life. I don't even know. I check up on them. I haven't seen you. They're like, oh, it's because I hate you. Okay, cool. Enjoy. Okay, so I spent a little bit too much time on this one, but I think it's a really common thing. Like, I think it's really common that people kind of just have these hate cults. The next one's communication. This is so important. Friendship is communication between two people. Don't be the one being pursued, but pursue. Okay, so we already hit this proverb once, but it was 1824. It is, one with many friends may be hard, but there's a friend who stays closer than a brother. What this proverb is also getting out is that the true friend that you keep, you want to stay close with them. Okay, I know I've been there, and I know I'm guilty. I love my brother-in-law. Great guy. We were roommates for a long time. I love him so much. I married his sister. But just kidding, brother. But you know, we would hang out. We'd have a fun time. He moved to Oregon. It was hard to like hang out, to talk to each other. So I was like, every so often, I was like, hey man, thinking about you. You know, cool. Like, hope you're loving life. Every once in a while, he'd reach out to me, and I wouldn't respond. I'm terrible at responding. And so you ever leave someone on red? You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, oh, dang, sorry, I forgot to reply to you. And these people are constantly like reaching out to you. And you're like not really giving them the time of day. Let's be honest. Do we really care about that relationship? Like, Are they really a priority? Can we confidently say that that person's a priority to us if we're not making them a priority? So when it comes to that, when it comes to friendship, communication is so important. I see this all the time. You have to pursue someone to have a relationship with someone. You have to give back. You can't just wait for them to contact you. The number one thing that I see people drift apart, the number one sign is when they leave each other unread, when they just continue to not respond. And days go by, like, where's this guy? And it's like, I keep pestering him to talk to me. And finally he responded. So now we're friends. So like it doesn't work that way. So David and Jonathan, they sought each other in friendship. As Jonathan pursued David in this intention, eventually David started giving back. Once it became a friendship, that's when you can really tell David started seeking out the benefit of Jonathan. And it says David wept more. The reason why it throws that in there is just to let us know David really cared. He finally had a stake in this relationship. And so when it comes to your friends, if you really care about them, don't leave them on red. Right? We all get busy. I know it happens. Trust me, I know. I get so busy. But you gotta get back. You gotta invest in this relationship. And if you're constantly the one reaching out and someone's not reaching back, it might just not work. Like, here's the thing. Like, these aren't like 5 ways to force someone to be your friend. Okay, no, this is how to make good friends. And like, if you're going through these steps and someone's like, nah, like, okay, it wasn't meant to be. Like, you can't be like, no, we're friends. So just like let them go, right? And what you might find is that if you let them go, some people might realize, like, in pure, genuine, like, love, like, oh, shoot, we lost track of each other, and they'll realize, oh, I didn't reach out, I apologize, and you'll go, okay, then there is a friendship here. But don't just be the one constantly pursuing someone who's not feeding back into you if they're running from you, because there's probably a better friend out there for you. All right. That's not to say like if someone, like, you're just gonna let someone go in spite and hate. Like, do it in good heart. Be like, okay, like, we're obviously not as close as we used to be. I love them. They're kind of going to acquaintance status. We're not enemies, okay? My friends aren't going to go like curb stomp their friends. All right, it's just a mutual, like, okay, we'll go back to acquaintance level. You're cool. I'm cool. Maybe, we'll both happen to be at a movie theater together sometime. I don't know. So the next part is listen to your friends. Okay, so it's not just this pursuit thing, but you need to listen. So communicate. Ask them about their lives. Don't just do all the talking. Okay, Jonathan kept his ears open for David. He was invested into David's life. How many times and I know, like, I have a hard time with this because I just moved here, and I have a lot of easy talking points. How's the house? My wife's pregnant. How's the baby? It's like after we get done, like the initial like handshake with someone is like me. How's the house? How's the baby? How's the job? Because everyone who's meeting me knows that this is new stuff. It's like easy talking points. Like, oh, good. But I feel terrible if I leave that conversation and it was just a me show, right? And so as I'm like finding new people to hang out with here, as I'm making new relationships, I want to make sure that I'm asking them, no. Like, how's your pregnancy going? Like, how was your game night? How'd the promotion go? Like, how's your job? How's your girlfriend? How are these things? That I'm actually giving back to them, that I'm investing in them, okay? So the number one thing I can tell you out of this whole communication thing is also just invest in them. Ask people about their lives. Has anyone ever been guilty when you're telling stories with friends and you're just thinking about the next story you're going to tell? Someone's like, oh, I did this really cool thing with paintball. And you're like, okay, topic's paintball. I have some cool paintball stories. What's the cool? Okay, cool. Okay, he's done talking. One time like the moment they finished their story, you didn't even respond to their story. You didn't even talk about it. You immediately leaned into like, well, yeah, me too. Like, yeah, I'm so guilty. I do that all the time. Because like, I want to be cool, right? And it's like, maybe it's good-hearted. You're like, I want to fit in with this person. But the truth is, you have to invest into them, okay? Don't just queue up your next story. All right, actually ask them like probing questions. So Proverbs 27:14, I love this one. It says, if one blesses his neighbor with a loud voice early in the morning, it will be counted as a curse to him. You just picture like morning people. Good morning! Like, oh, coffee. What this proverb is getting at is that you're not caring about that person's needs. You're like, it's morning. I want to talk. I'm chipper. I'm happy. I don't care where they're at. I don't care what they're going through. I just want to like do me. So what this whole thing is that it's talking about in this proverb is just being inconsiderate. You did not consider this person. And that's what it looks like when we're not when we're not investing in people's lives, we're being inconsiderate. We are not considering them. So, last part, this is really culturally like taboo, I think, in this day and age. People don't like to hear this, but giving gifts shows you care. It costs you something. Put some skin in the game and let your friendship cost you. When it comes to gifts, a lot of people are like, well, you're just buying friendship. Okay, if your goal is to buy friendship, yes, this is bad. But if you genuinely love someone, if you genuinely, like one of my friends, he's really into Green Lantern. And I was hanging out in a comic shop. They had these plastic Green Lantern rings. They had all the colors. They were like $1 each. And I was like, oh, cool. I bought one of each. Took them, gave them to him. He's like, the lantern rings. I'm like, yeah, there you go. He's like, ah! And he put them on his fingers. I'm the Green Lantern. And he was the guy who would like wear them to school too. Like, dude, what's all the rings? He's like, I'm the Green Lantern. I'm like, okay, you got to chill. But but the point is that it meant so much to him. And it was like $12, like $1 each. There was like 12 rings or something. And I was like, yeah, like no big deal. $12, there you go. Like I knew that he would care about it. I knew it would mean the world to him. $12 doesn't really mean the world to me. And I was like, yeah, like I was thinking about him. It lets him know I was thinking about him. Lets him know I was caring about him. So I bought him something. This is not to give gifts to gain friendship, okay? My cousin Mark was like, he was the money guy. His aunt was the VP of Quick Trip. He had a Quick Trip credit card. And so we'd go to Quick Trip and he would just load it up. Like, grab what you want with energy drinks and donuts. And we kind of go, here's our stuff. And it would be like every day before school. I used that man. So it didn't draw us closer in friendship. If anything, it made me a leech. Where I realized I can't think of one thing I bought him. I know I bought him gifts, but I can't think, not one stands out in my head, of something I gave him. And it was because even though he was giving me tons of gifts, like it wasn't like, it didn't draw us closer, okay? So this whole gift giving thing, you got to be careful with it. It's not about buying something. It's like, you must love me. No, it's just like, hey, I was caring about you, like no big deal, like here you go. And it's just looking out for people. So I have gifts that people have given me that was kind of the same thing with the lantern rings, like to my friend. They gave me something, and that's something that when I see it, like it brings my heart joy. Like I see this thing, like, oh, like, you know, Josh gave me this, and it really means a lot. I love that he got me this. And it's a special thing. It communicates, again, it's all about communication. It communicates his sincerity. He was thinking about me, and he let it cost him something. So Jonathan made a covenant with Jonathan? Is that what I kept? Yeah, that's a typo. Jonathan made a covenant with himself, with David, and gave up his royal possessions for him. More than that, he put his life on the line. And so this gift giving can be more than material possessions. It can be the gift of time. It can be the gift of energy. Here I really mean kind of just gift being gifts. But, it can be more than just physical things. Proverbs 27:9 says, oil and incense bring joy to the heart, and the sweetness of a friend is better than self-counsel. So it's just this idea of like, possessions can kind of communicate. Again, just intention. Okay, the last one is loyalty. This is a big one, because today we have a real big misconception of loyalty. This is the number one thing that we misunderstand in our culture. Again, like I talked about when I was a kid, and they said true friendship is the loyal friend is the one who looks next to you in prison is like, we messed up. Okay, let's talk about that. True loyalty protects. It doesn't lie, but it looks for restoration pain. It maintains the relationship for reconciliation. So the idea here is that when David didn't trust Jonathan, Jonathan made reparations to show David he could be trusted. He offered himself as collateral. He put his life on the line. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a difficult time. It means when the going gets tough, loyalty steps up a notch, okay? This isn't, as we'll talk later, it's not like loyalty and destruction or loyalty for loyalty's sake, but you're loyal to your friends. So, case in point, if your friend hurts you, if your friend stabs you in the back, you tell them. You don't hide. You're like, I'm going to let that one go. No, because that is a divide between you. You have it out. Hey, man, you kind of hurt me. Like, I thought we were friends. Like, I heard you talk behind my back. That's really not cool. But it doesn't go around. You go to them. You don't go to all your friends like, they talk bad about me. Let's hate them. That's back to the friendship over poison thing, right? You don't go tell the whole school. You don't go tell all your friends. You don't go spread like the news to the hills like, they betrayed me. Hear ye, hear ye. Like, stomp on this person's reputation. No, it protects, okay? The next part leads into this. True loyalty forgives. It doesn't look to have wrath or hatred. for retribution's sake. It grieves over a loss or a hurt and wishes for restoration. Okay, David didn't say screw this and forget Jonathan. He stuck with his friend. When Jonathan's dad keeps trying to kill David, right? And David's not like, forget this, I'm out, you know. He stuck with his friend through this hard time. He grieved for a restoration in the relationship. Proverbs 17:9 says, whoever conceals an offense promotes love, but whoever gossips about it separates friends. So these two kind of go hand in hand. That's why I'm going back and forth between them. But the idea is, if someone stabs you in the back, don't go tell everyone. You tell them, like, hey, I heard you messed up, right? And like, we're all gonna fail. Like, you're gonna be on that side sometimes, and they're gonna be on that side sometimes. You're gonna hurt your friend, and it's right for them to approach you. And your friend's gonna hurt you. It's right for you to approach them. Okay? You don't go, like, when you go telling everyone, all it does is spread all this poison. And so then when you guys finally do, like, become friends, it's going to be so much harder because you've, like, told everyone how horrible this was. So now you, because you were wrong, you actually have to go and apologize on their behalf for all the gossip you told about them. I was going through that What Do You Meme game. I was pulling out the bad cards. And so I had to read all the cards to make sure they're all good. And one of them said, when you make up with a friend, but you already told your mother how bad they were, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, you're like, oh, like now you're friends again, but you already like trashed their reputation. So then I was like, why are you hanging out with that person? They're dirt. I'm like, no, we made up. We're good now. And so approach your friend. Don't gossip. And then the idea is genuine forgiveness. Don't hold on to hate for hate's sake. True friendship works towards that restoration. It works towards that forgiveness. When someone stabs you in the back, it hurts, right? Like, you want to cry. Like, oh, like I thought we were really cool friends. But if you have a genuine relationship with that person, you will want to restore that relationship. You will look forward to the day when there is now nothing between you two, where you can both be best friends again. That's true loyalty. True loyalty doesn't partake in sin or destruction. It seeks to edify and always moves towards health and away from poison. Okay? So Proverbs 28:23 says, one who rebukes a person will later find more favor than the one who flatters with his tongue. All right? So the friend who's like, no, man, like, praise you, it's all good. Right? Like, you do you. Like, oh, that sounds fun. Like, yeah, let's, do it together. All this flattery and false talk is nothing compared to the friend who has the guts, the friend who cares about you enough to say, like, hey, no, like, don't do that. It's going to hurt you. I've been there with many friends where they're going to do something. They're like, hey, man, like, love you, want to support you. That's going to hurt you. And we have it out. And sometimes it's an opinion, right? Sometimes my opinion's wrong. We talk about it. Like, hey, man, I love you enough to let you know, I think that girl you're going to date is poison. I think she's bad. Well, why? Okay, well, I'm just looking at, like, all these outliers that are problems. And I've had it with friends where I was wrong. They're like, well, no, okay, here's what I think. Okay, cool. Like, at the end of the conversation, we're closer friends for it because I cared enough to say something. But on the flip side, I've had friends who were like, forget you, you're manipulating me. Like, which I don't know why I would be manipulating in that way, but, I don't want to hear this anymore. And then they went and they did it, and then it turns out I was right. And they had to come back and be like, yeah, sorry. And it's caring enough to have these conversations. They're high-risk conversations. They'll hurt friends' feelings. You'll have to step on some toes. You'll have to call them out on some stuff. And you may be wrong. Be open to being wrong. It's just simply opening up the door to dialogue. I love you enough. I care enough. This friendship matters enough that I think this thing is bad and I want to just talk about it. And after you talk about it, they may go, okay, I disagree with you. Okay? It's your point at that point in time to be like, okay, I'm glad we talked. Right? Let it go. If it's an opinion thing, let it go. If it's a biblical thing, well, then you can continue to disagree with them respectfully. Okay, like, you can't force them. Well, I told you, like, this thing is bad. Like, I want to go drink alcohol over the weekend. Probably shouldn't do that. Okay? A lot of biblical principles against that. And they're like, well, I think it's good. And here's all my reasons. So I'm like, okay, you bring up some good points. Okay? The point is just like, all right, I'm not going to support you in that. I'm still going to oppose you in that. Okay? There are things people do every day that friends don't want to be snitches, right? They don't want to be narcs. There is these kids who, they thought it'd be fun to roll a boulder off of the freeway, off of the highway. So those like overpasses, the walk pass? These kids grab a boulder and push it over the side and hit a car with a dad, his wife, and his new baby in there, kill the dad instantly. And there was one kid who was like, I didn't support it. Like, I was against it. I didn't touch the boulder. I didn't do anything. Okay. But he didn't call the cops, right? Like, he didn't turn him in because he didn't want to be a narc. He didn't want to be a snitch. He didn't want to stand up against his friends and go to the police. That kid's now in prison as an accomplice to murder. The other kid who were responsible for the rock, they're in prison for first-degree murder. And he didn't care enough, right? And this is an extreme case, but I've seen it, right, with kids who are like, they go out, they have a wild weekend. Before you know it, this is a true story. A group of friends I went to high school with dropped their friend who had a gunshot wound off at the hospital and ran away because they didn't want to get in trouble. So they just like pulled up. Their friend had gotten shot at a party. They kicked him out of the car in front of the emergency room and they drove off so they didn't get in trouble. Everyone was loyal up until that point. Oh, we're doing crazy stuff. Like, we were having fun. But, we're going to support. Like, we're going to come together in this thing. And we're going to have, loyalty to destruction. The better friend would have been the friend who's like, no, if you go there, I'm going to call your parents. If you do this thing, I'm going to call the cops. Because people would still be alive. That man would still be alive. That kid would be out of prison. The kid I knew who got shot would still be alive. All of these things, we don't think about the consequence. We think, loyalty for loyalty's sake. Loyalty just to be loyal in destruction. One who rebukes a person will later find favor than one who flatters with his tongue. Guys, the send home is very easy. It's choose your friends wisely. There's a lot of people out there you can be friends with. Choose your friends wisely. Now, you can have acquaintances, right? You can have people you know. It's not that you shun everyone who's not your friend, but who you let into your inner circle, who you call a best friend, who you let build you up, who you let know everything, who you want to be back to back with when everything is dark and the world's closing in. Choose them wisely. Because if you don't choose your friends wisely, they'll pull you down. So many people think, well, I'll influence them. Okay, there's a place for influencing your friends, but it's not friendship. It's not true best friendship. You can be an influencer over people. You can be a voice of light and a voice of truth without joining in destruction with that person, without being blindly loyal to that person, without supporting everything. If you have someone in your life who's constantly asking you to do horrible things, who's constantly asking you to disobey your parents, to violate scripture, to just do genuinely terrible things or bad things, if you have someone who worships in sin, who scoffs law, who just seeks out the darkness, don't be that person's friend. Sever that tie. Don't shun them. Be a light. Allow yourself to be an influencer. But don't tie yourself to that person, because they'll drag you down. So guys, just in closing, you want to be intentional. You want to communicate. You want to be loyal, true loyalty. So we've talked about these things. Guys, if you have questions about these things, if you want to know more about these things, I highly encourage you, come to small groups. Small groups this week, we're going to talk more about friendship. We're going to get deeper into these things. We're going to look at these things practically. We're going to ask each other, what are some times with friends? We're going to really share stories and build each other up. This is a lot to just take in right now while someone's on stage talking. So that's what small groups are for. So I highly encourage you guys, please come to small groups. Let's break these things down. Let's make them memorable. Let's commit them to memory. If you can't make it to small groups, find one of the staff around the room. Ask us questions so we can help you untangle maybe anything that was confusing. But let's pray. Thank you, God, for tonight. Thank you for bringing us here, Lord. Thank you for your message. God, encourage us to be intentional about who we let in. Let us be intentional about who we tie ourselves to, who we call a friend, a best friend. God, encourage us to communicate. Even when it's hard, we get busy. Lord, build us up to be better friends, to not leave people unread, Lord. But let's, God, just encourage us to show love to those we love and to just be more, again, just intentional and communicate better. And God, encourage us in loyalty. Don't let us be misguided. Don't let us just be loyal for loyal's sake to just the wrong things, God, but true loyalty, Lord. Teach us and instruct us what it looks like to genuinely care, for loyalty that preserves, loyalty that protects. Thank you, God, for all these things. In Jesus' name, amen.